county. And, over the weekend, the government spokesperson, Sarah Suguna, said that the government will begin, spraying of the affected counties that were invaded by locusts. And right now, I'd like us to speak to our reporter, Hamed Hussein, who's now joining us via way of phone, just to, tell us whether the spraying has begun, the aerial spraying, because the government had talked about two different types of spraying, the aerial spraying and also the hand spraying. And Hamed Hussein, let me first begin by saying Happy New Year, because you've not spoken this year, the year of 2020. Happy New Year. Kindly bring us up to date with what is happening. Has the spraying begun, especially the aerial spraying that was talked about by the government spokesperson, Cyrus Oguna, on Saturday?
Well, Brenda, Happy New Year too. We haven't spoken since the New Year just turned, and you're right, the desert locusts have been causing havoc in parts of northern Kenya, especially in Wajir and Mandera counties. And as such, as you say, the government asked or sent teams to the ground locust support teams, including the teams, agriculture teams from the county government of Wajir, led by the Deputy Governor of Wajir, Ahmed Ali Mukhtar, plant protection teams from the National Agriculture Department, also the Desert Locust Control Organization of East Africa was sent to determine and give a solution to the locusts that have been causing chaos. The teams arrived in Wajir yesterday, and they have all been planning. And as such, this morning, the aerial spraying began around 6:30 a.m. up to 9, where over around 5 to 10 kilometers square of land was sprayed in Dulgub, parts of Wajir South constituency, where the locusts have affected heavily. And since then, the teams have been on the ground, and yesterday evening they pitched the camp in a place called Abakori town that is close to the place that have been inhabited by the locusts, and they help determine how they are going to do the spraying, because remember that there are some nomads who are living along the area, and so they were relocated to areas that were locust-free. And since then, they started the operation early this morning. Locusts usually sleep from 4 in the evening up to morning. That's 9 in the morning, and then from 9 in the morning, that's when they start moving or start feeding on the vegetation. And so they actually determined how they are going to spray. A plane, that's a 6-seater plane, that was one of the planes that was sent by the national government following the directive by President Uhuru Kenyatta, was on the ground, plus all the teams, majority of them were using the county vehicles and also other non-governmental organizations. And so they determined that place, that Dulgub is one of the places that are affected by the locust, around 5 to 10 kilometers of the land. So they were helping the plane that was on air, and they lit fire, because usually smoke usually goes with the wind, and locust, if it moves, it also goes with the wind. And so that is an easy way of determining where they will be spraying. Around 200 to 300 liters of chemicals were then used, and so the operation was over as early as 9:30 this morning. That is the latest there. Remember that Wajir was really affected, the locust coming all the way from Somalia via Mandera, then Kutulu, parts of Tarbaj, but now the most affected area is Wajir South. The next 2 to 3 days, the county government team here, the deputy governor said they will be pitching camp here. Remember that there's also a place known as Thief around the border, and Salalma, that's where the next place they will be going to do the spraying. However, the public here have been warned to be careful of their health, because locusts usually, the areas that they infest, once the spraying is done, there are chemical containers that are left behind. Most of them, they contain the chemical residues, and children can be affected if they get to it. So the next, they say for 2 days, no human being or no person can be visiting those areas. And so teams, including even officials from the health department, plus also teams from national government are on the ground, and they say no person can step into those areas as of now. Also, the another place that was rather affected was Buna in Wajir North. But the locusts that were spotted, they have now since crossed to Marsabit, and maybe it can give maybe the teams on the ground they might be forced to visit Marsabit as well after they do Wajir and Cielo. Remember that a kilometer-sized swarm that is of locusts contains about 40 million of locusts, which usually eat the same amount of food in a day as about 35,000 people and maybe 20 camels. So you can understand the havoc the locust is going to do to the vegetation here after the huge drought, the long drought that we have seen here after the short rains or the heavy rains the public here were adamant that they will be able to reap the benefits of the rains, but now the vegetation is under a huge threat.
All right, Hussein, I believe you can hear me, and it's good you're talking about the locust coming from Somalia to the counties of Wajir, Marsabit, and Mandera. They've been affected, but as much as the county, the country is doing the hand spray and the aerial spraying to get rid of the locust, but is there communication between the Somali government and the Kenyan government so that even the Somali government can also start spraying on their side? Because even if we spray the locust in Kenya, it will still come from the Somali side.
Yes, you're true. You're right. The Somali, that's where the locust usually came from, eastern Somalia via Mandera. But we haven't had any information on Somalia government doing spraying. So we're only hearing is that part of the public here in Somalia actually feeding to the locusts. They say it's actually a good dish. That's the only thing that we have had as of now. We have not seen any spraying done along the border. That is beyond the border of Kenya and Somalia. The spray usually is happening in Kenya. In Somalia, probably they conducted their own other operations, but none of it. There haven't been much communications between the two governments as far as the information that actually right now we have. But here in Wajir, public have resorted to localized methods before it became a disaster. They were doing hooting and also making noise, as well as probably police were shooting there. That's all, but that's in the part of the as far as Kenya is concerned. But I've not had any communications being done by the communications probably can be happening between elders from the border areas. Probably can be communicating and say this thing is causing havoc to us. Why don't you do this? But there's not much communication between the two governments as far as information actually we have now.
All right. And Hussein, lastly, in a minute, just lastly, talk to us about the hand spraying, because, the government through the spokesperson, Sarah Suguna, on Saturday, while addressing the nation, say that they'll be doing hand spraying, and they've confirmed that the spray, the chemicals have been tested and are not harmful, to human and the environment. So has any hand spraying begun? Because you've talked about the aerial spraying so far.
The County Department of Health, the Chief of Staff for Medical Services and Public Health, we spoke to last week in an interview, he said the hand spraying is what they are doing, but it is not enough. He said they requested, because these are millions of locusts, and he said this is not going to be of any help, and that's why they were waiting for the aerial spraying to begin, because they said probably that's a more easier way of getting rid of it. But hand spraying has been going on, but the Department of Health said even some of them even didn't have enough chemicals. So the 3,000 liters of the chemicals that have arrived probably after they might be doing aerial spraying on areas that are heavily inhabited by the locust, but areas probably that doesn't have much and that there are only few number of locusts, probably that's where they will be doing the hand spraying in the next few days.
Ahmed Hussein, a reporter talking to us in Wajir County when it comes to the locust invasion that happened in Wajir, Marsabit and Mandera County. He'll be giving us more details on how successful the aerial spraying and the hand spraying